You are Locked On Warriors POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports San Francisco on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On Warriors POSTCAST. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KNBR. And tonight, the Golden State Warriors embarked on their first day of a new chapter as Jimmy Butler joined the team and helped lead the way to a 132-111 win over the Chicago Bulls, a come-from-behind win over the Chicago Bulls. And Jimmy Butler had 25 points in his Golden State Warriors debut, but it was his impact on Stephen Curry that was most noticeable, as Steph sparked the second half comeback with 24 third quarter points and 34 in total. And wow, did the spacing look different out there on the court. This was Stephen Curry's best game of the season, and it's no coincidence that it came after the addition of Jimmy Butler. And just a reminder, this is only day one. These two will get better as time goes on. We'll break it all down, but first, I want to thank all of you for watching us on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. Please, if you aren't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button right now. Turn those notifications on. And thanks for listening on the Locked On Warriors podcast feed, making us your first listen following these Dubs games. And make sure to check out the Locked On Warriors daily show for more in-depth coverage. Charlie Walter does a great job. Today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. And in this one, the Warriors, that first half looked really, really, really bad. The Warriors trailing at halftime by 14 points. That deficit ballooned up to over 20 points in the third quarter. And man, this one looked like the Bulls were going to kind of run away with this one. And it looked like, this was going to be a clunky start to the Jimmy Butler experience. But man, in that third quarter, Steph just went thermonuclear. And the 24 points, Steph just went absolutely bonkers from everywhere during that third quarter. But man, oh man, was Steph doing some damage from three. He had 5 3-pointers in that third quarter. He went 7 of 11 from the field in that third quarter alone. Steph for the day, 10 of 19. So just the last game the Warriors played, the Steph slash line where he had 30, 32, 34, something like that, about as many points as he had tonight against the Lakers. But it took him 30 plus shots to get there. For Steph to be hitting the 30-point mark with under 20 shots, man, this is the Steph Curry of old. This is who Steph really is. This is who he is at his best. It's when he has someone else on the court to help take some of that pressure off. There has never been a single superstar in the NBA that didn't have a good supporting cast around him. Take the best player of all time, Michael Jordan, not LeBron James, Michael Jordan. He had Scottie Pippen, like his whole damn career. If you want to look at LeBron, okay, look at all the damage he did with D Wade down there in Miami, and Chris Bosh, and when he was on the Cavs, it's not like they had nobody. They had Kevin Love, they had J.R. Smith. Like, you have dudes on these teams that can play. And when Steph has someone that can actually play offense next to him on the court, man, it is a thing of beauty to watch. And Jimmy, the way that the spacing improved immediately, there's a few things that Jimmy does for this offense. First thing that really stood out to me was the spacing. And everybody on this team, the Warriors as a whole, shot 39.6% from the three-point line. When's the last time we saw this team get anywhere near 40% from the three-point line? That's almost entirely because of the spacing that Jimmy Butler gives you. It means that guys got to stay home when Steph's dribbling the ball past half court. Steph isn't seeing nearly as many double and triple teams. You aren't having the entire team just ball watching Steph, forcing him to give it up, because guess what? Now there's other options. Now there's a way to beat the double team. It's not just give it to Buddy Hield in the corner and pray that he makes the three. You have guys on this team that are knocking down shots. And speaking of Buddy, he played pretty well again tonight too. 4 of 9 from three-point range. So even Buddy is benefiting from adding a guy like Jimmy Butler. And Quentin Post also hitting threes. He also had 4 threes of his own. The whole Warriors team, aside from Moses Moody, had a very good three-point shooting night. Moses Moody 0 for 5, very unlike him. He had a really bad shooting night in general, just 2 for 11 from the field, only 4 points for Moses. But he's pretty much the only outlier of all the Warriors. Every single player on this team benefited from the spacing that Jimmy Butler just simply being on the floor generates. And when you're able to space him and Curry out there, and it gives your other like tertiary players, not like the, I consider Steph the primary, obviously, and Jimmy Butler can be a secondary, but kind of like the 1B, you know what I mean? And then everybody else is an option 3. And that's Buddy Hield, that's Guy Santos, that's Gary Payton, that's Moses Moody, literally Draymond Green, literally everybody on this roster is a third option to those two guys. But it allows all of those players to step up and actually be productive, because all that the other teams had to do to guard the Warriors before was essentially shut down Steph Curry. And if any one of these role players gets hot, just kind of, focus on that guy and just let the rest of them prove that they can come out there and beat you. You're not going to have teams just saying, okay, show me that Jimmy Butler can beat me. And if they do, Jimmy Butler will sure as hell go out there and show them exactly what he can do with a basketball in his hands, and he will make them pay for it. But with Jimmy and Steph on the court at the same time, you got to pick your poison. You got to pick who you're closing out on, because if you close out, if you wait to rotate over to Jimmy and you just have someone fly out there and try and close out on the jumper, he's just going to pump fake and drive right by you into the lane. And that brings me to the second thing that really impresses me about Jimmy Butler on this team, and that is the free throw shooting. It's been one day, and we already have a Jimmy Butler game where he shot 13 free throws. This Warriors team as a whole shot 27 shots from the charity stripe. How many times this season, I'll ask the same question in a different format, how many times this season have we seen the Warriors come anywhere close to 30 free throw attempts? Not very many. It's rare that we've had multiple games where the Warriors haven't even gotten into double-digit free throws as a team. With Jimmy Butler on this team, he has so many games this season already of 10-plus free throw attempts in a single game, and that alone is so beneficial for this Warriors team because it gives you an option when the shot isn't falling. When these shooters that you have spaced out around the floor aren't making the shots, when Buddy Hield goes cold, when Steph is going cold, when Quentin Post is going cold, I mean, you got another option. Like when this offense is looking clunky, like it's looked at multiple points in time this year, you can have Jimmy Butler slow the game down, get into the paint, be methodical about it, and just get to the line and allow Steph to catch his breath, allow Draymond's knees a little bit of a break. I mean, you got some old dudes on this team. Yeah, you got a lot of young guys, but your main characters on this Warriors roster are all old dudes for basketball terms. If you're older than me and in the NBA, you're an old dude. So everybody on this team that is, going to the All-Star game or, was once an All-Star is an old dude at this point. So you need to find points in time where you can allow Steph to kind of get some of that energy back, where you can recharge Draymond Green's energy on defense just a little bit. And Jimmy provides that just by existing, just by the way he plays basketball. You don't have to force it. You don't have to install a new game plan. You just got to give the ball to Jimmy Butler and let him go to work on the wing. That is the biggest luxury that the Warriors could have on this team at this point, because you got a little bit of that with Kuminga. Like Kuminga had started to sort of shift into that role before the injury. He was getting to the line a lot more with a lot more assertiveness and consistency. But with Jimmy Butler, this is his game. Aside from the way that he plays defense, the way that he just, makes people around him better, I really, really, really love what I saw from Jimmy Butler in his aggressiveness and getting into the interior and getting to the line. I mean, Jimmy, excellent game tonight. All those 25 points, not a single one of them from beyond the 3-point line. I mean, that is not something that we're used to as Warriors fans. You know what I mean? If someone scores 20 plus points, usually it's by way of the three in the last, 10, 15 years here in Golden State. I mean, it's either Steph or it's Clay or back in the strength and number days, sometimes you'd have someone on the bench kind of pop off for 20 plus, but a lot of those guys were 3-point shooters too. Like even the quote big guys on the bench during that era, David West, he could knock down some corner threes. Mo Buckets, Mo Spades, he could pull up for 3 too. So even back then you had guys that were, doing it with the 3-ball, even the bigs. And Jimmy, he doesn't need it. He absolutely does not need the 3-point shot in order to be an effective player on this roster. And that's the last thing that I want to talk about is how not depending on the 3-point shot is weirdly what the Warriors needed. Even though you have the greatest 3-point shooter of all time on this team, you needed more more of a threat to score inside, to make teams actually play interior defense against the Warriors and allow some of these, allow Steph to get some space to operate beyond the 3-point line. And I mean, just the way that teams have been defending Steph this year, it has been so impossible for him to really get going because he hasn't had any space to operate. He gets past half court and he gets a whole kitchen sink thrown at him from the defense, from every single team the Warriors have played this year. And with Jimmy Butler on this team, it stops teams from doing that. Because if you want to double Steph up near the half court line, there's plenty of other firepower on this team. Jimmy will come get that ball and make sure to make you pay, because if he doesn't score, he's finding a wide open dude who's gonna. And man, this team, I mean, again, this is day one of the Jimmy Butler experience, the Jimmy Butler experience, day one. This guy is, I mean, I don't know if he's had a practice yet with the Warriors, but I'm assuming if he did, it's like, one practice with the Warriors. This guy has not played much basketball with Stephen Curry in his career. And after today, I'm so excited to see what this looks like once these guys actually start playing more basketball together. And reminder, Jimmy Butler has been suspended for how long by the Miami Heat? Like, this guy hasn't even been on an NBA court. So one, he's fresh, which is really good. Two, he's going to get better. As I said, as the chemistry develops and blossoms into like a whole offense where these two can feel each other out and know where they're going to be on the court at all times. Like, once they get to that point, I mean, you'll start seeing the same kind of stuff you saw from Steph and Clay with the behind the back pass to the trailer for three and all that. I can't wait till we have that moment, man. Like, I know that it's going to come with Jimmy Butler and Steph. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, it was so obvious how these two clicked together instantaneously on the court tonight, and that just gave me so much hope, so much excitement. I mean, I know a lot of fans are kind of on the fence about the Jimmy Butler trade and whether or not they're on board with it, but I think after tonight, you got a lot to be positive about. Let's take a quick break here on the Locked On Warriors postcast. I want to talk about more about the Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry fit. I want to talk about why I'm so excited and why I think this thing is actually really, really, really going to work, other than all the reasons that I've given you. More reasons that the Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler pairing is really a match made in heaven. We'll talk about that next on the Locked On Warriors postcast. Today's show is sponsored by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%. Plus, you get 4% APY on your cash and non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at robinhoodgold.com. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. That's robinhood.com/gold. Investing requires risk. Rate subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national average savings account interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. And tonight, the Warriors 132-111 win over the Bulls. And man, it was a Curry flurry for the ages. I mean, 24 points in that third quarter. That's one of the best Curry flurries we've seen. Definitely the best one this season, and one of the best ones we've seen in a long, long time. And it's no coincidence that it came after the addition of Jimmy Butler. It came after the Warriors finally got someone else that can put the ball in the hoop beside Stephen Curry to play on the floor at the same time as Stephen Curry, a guy whose game plays really well off of his. And I love Kuminga. I think that he's grown in leaps and bounds this year, but I do think that he still has to adjust to playing with Steph and adjusting to Steph's game. It's not on Steph to adjust to Jonathan Kuminga. Jonathan Kuminga isn't the number one player on this team. If you are not the number one player on the team, it is everybody else's job to adapt to the game that you're playing, especially when you play a game like Steph Curry, where you play your game so well that it changed how the game of basketball is played. You don't ask that guy to switch up what he's doing. And that's exactly what Jimmy Butler came in here and did. And I kind of want to talk about, like, phrase this conversation with some perspective, because let's talk about Dennis Schroeder for a second. I know that Schroeder is not the same player as Jimmy Butler. No one's pretending that he is. But when he came in, that first couple games, you didn't really get the vibe that he fit in with this team. You didn't really get the vibe that his skill set was really matching up with everybody on the Warriors and really gave them what they needed. He just didn't do that. Like, it seemed clunky from the start. It got better. There were points, we had that one game where he had like 20 something points and he had a couple big moments. He had that big shot against Phoenix earlier in the season. But my point is that Dennis Schroeder never really looked like a natural fit alongside Steph Curry. Jimmy Butler in one game, already looks more comfortable next to Steph than Dennis Schroeder ever did. And I know that these two players are not the same guy. They're not comparable in the sense of what their games look like on the court. But I'm just talking about from a fit perspective. Like, you knew that you were hoping that you were going to get something from Dennis Schroeder. He wasn't going to change the total outcome of this team and where they went in the season. But you were hoping that he would fit in, maybe fill in that D'Anthony Melton role a little bit. And again, he just never did. It was very clunky, and he ended up getting shipped out because he just never found that spot with the Warriors. If people are concerned about the fit of Jimmy Butler on this team, any concern about that should be put to bed after tonight. I mean, Jimmy in one day immediately looks more acclimated to this offense than Dennis Schroeder looked in 2 months. I think that Jimmy Butler is going to be excellent in this offense. I think he's only going to get better. And again, the spacing he provides, the ability to get to the free throw line and constantly just control the pace of the game, what he brings you on the defensive end of the floor, I mean, it's consistency. And that's something that this Warriors team has lacked severely all season long, is consistency. And Jimmy Butler has been a model of that in his NBA career. I mean, he's been consistent with how he play. I mean, consistently elevates his play in late games, consistently elevates his play in the playoffs, consistently elevates the play of everybody around him. I mean, would we even know who Tyler Hero is if he didn't play alongside Jimmy Butler? Like, Tyler Hero's a nice player, but he's not getting mentioned in contemporary top 20 songs without, or not contemporary, but modern pop top 20. Jack Harlow isn't shouting out Tyler Hero if he's not Jimmy Butler's teammate, because Tyler Hero probably would just be like another, I don't know, like Terrence Mann or someone like that. I mean, different type of players, but like, you'd be like Bones Highland, like someone of that relative obscurity if he didn't have Jimmy Butler on his team getting him open shots all the time. I mean, and that's exactly what he's going to do for Steph. Like, Jimmy knows how to play with these three-point shooters. Look at what he did in Miami. Everybody around him was a three-point shooter except for Bam. And Bam is a lot like Draymond in the sense of the offensive limitations and how they want to play defensively and stuff. A defensive-minded big, but he's a little bit less of a lob threat, obviously, Draymond is, than Bam Adebayo. But point being, Jimmy Butler knows how to play alongside three-point shooters and help them find success. If you think that he is not going to figure that out with Stephen Curry, I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, maybe go watch another sport, because anybody with eyeballs that has ever watched the game of basketball can tell just by watching Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry out there on the floor tonight that this pair is going to work. And I am so excited to see what happens going forward as they get more time to develop together, as they get more time to practice together, and to actually just be on the court at the same time. Again, Steph went for 24 points in that third quarter. And a lot of that also, I think, just was predicated on Jimmy just helping him out. I mean, if Jimmy hadn't drawn all of the gravity that he did in that earlier in the game, I mean, Jimmy in that third quarter only had to take 2 shots. He made them both. But Jimmy in that first half, he was only 2 of 6. In the second half, 5 of 6. So like, he really stepped it up in that second half, and he really helped Steph with that, that Curry flurry. That doesn't happen without Jimmy Butler on the floor. Even when he's not scoring, he's pulling the gravity of the defense away from Steph. And there was nobody else on this team to do that prior to his arrival here in Golden State. Man, I am so excited to see Jimmy Butler. Also, just a random observation. Jimmy Butler's jersey, it looked a little weird to me tonight. Looked a little funky. Like he had the Butler on the back that was centered, but then he had like it said Butler the third on the back of it. So he had the three Roman numerals after the last name, and it didn't look like the Warriors were quite ready to put that on the jersey. Like it was off to the side. It was like over his right shoulder. It's a very weird look. I kind of have the feeling that, they showed Jimmy the jersey and he said, I want this to say Jimmy Butler the third. What the hell, man? And it looks like they just like slapped it on there, like ironed it on or something. I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe that is just what they're going to roll out for his jersey. But I kind of, that was a weird look, man. I think that they're going to fix that going forward. At least I hope for my guy, Jimmy Butler, they fix it. I mean, can't be disrespecting him, especially after coming out and in his Warriors, debut, scores 25 points, goes 7-12 from the field, 11 for 13 from the free throw line. And oh, by the way, he only played 29 minutes. His conditioning is going to go up as time goes on, although he doesn't look out of shape at all. Jimmy Butler, man, this guy, I love the fit. I love the addition. Honestly, even more than I liked it when it first happened. Like seeing the product on the court, I like this even better than I thought initially. And I did like this move a lot to begin with. I'm stoked, man. Let's just hope, hey, can I riff? Let's just hope that this Jimmy wearing number 10 works out a little better than the last Jimmy to wear number 10 for a Bay Area sports team. You know what I mean? Like, whoa, we're not talking Italians here. We're talking Jimmy Butler here on the Locked On Warriors postcast. Don't go anywhere. We have not talked nearly enough about Stephen Wardell Curry. This dude scored 34 points tonight, and we have barely even talked about him. So we've been so obsessed with talking about Jimmy Butler. Well, let's talk about Steph. And we also got to talk about some of these Warriors role players, especially Quentin Postman. This guy, another step forward for Posty. Let's talk about it next on the Locked On Warriors postcast. Today's show is sponsored by Game Time. Looking for tickets to your next big event, whether it's a concert, comedy show, or a sports game, finding the right ticket at the right price can be a headache. But with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals, so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. I've been using Game Time Picks for a while now, and here's why I love it. The curated deals make it super simple to find great tickets at a great price. No more sifting through thousands of options. I recently grabbed a super deal for a prime seat, and I couldn't believe the value. It was a steal. And the seat view feature is a game changer. Before I even hit buy, I can see exactly what my seat will look like in the venue, and it is so reassuring. Although, really, is there a bad seat at Chase Center? Like every single seat up there is. You get a great view of the court, even way up in the rafters, man. You still got like an unobstructed great view of the court. And the best part, you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund you 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and tonight, the Warriors 132-111 win over the Chicago Bulls. Jimmy Butler makes his Golden State Warriors debut, and man, was it fun. And in the process, he helped unlock Stephen Wardell Curry and turn him back into the baby-faced assassin that we all know and love. Steph easily, by my assessment, his best performance of the year so far. Like, easily his best performance. He scored more points than 34 this season, but he hasn't done it on this few shots. He hasn't done it on 8 of 16 made three-pointers. He did have one game earlier this year where I think he made 9. He made like 8 in a row at one point in that game. But Steph, with 50% shooting from the three-point line. Steph also, somebody call the NBA front office and alert them that they need to stop calling fouls on players against Stephen Curry when they're guarding him, because he shot 8 free throws tonight. And that's got to be against the NBA bylaws somewhere, because as we know, Stephen Curry is allowed to hit the deck like at least 2 or 3 times a game after being just completely hacked by a guy twice his size before they start to call those fouls. So, I mean, they must have done something wrong, the NBA officiating crew tonight, letting Steph get to the line that many times. I am being very facetious, of course. But, 8 free throws for Steph. He missed 2 of them, which is strange, but that's something we haven't seen a lot. I mean, it's evident that he is able to play the game he wants to play when Jimmy Butler's on the court. And Jimmy and the spacing totally unlocked Steph in that third quarter, where he went for 24 points just in that third quarter. And I mean, in the second half as a whole, Steph went 7 of 13 from the field. That's 54%. And as I said, he made in that third quarter 5 3-pointers. I mean, it's so obvious when you watch this offense with Steph Curry out there and Jimmy Butler at the same time that this is the best version of Steph that we've seen, and it allows him to just play so freely. Like the Warriors talk so much about lacking joy, and I love this so much because that is what Steph's game is predicated around, right? Like, you watch this guy play the game of basketball. I don't know that I've ever watched someone have as much fun as Stephen Curry on a basketball court. And you hear what Jimmy Butler's been saying in Miami, that he, lost his joy for playing basketball out in Miami, and he didn't think he could find it there again. And you listen to the first words out of his mouth when he's being introduced to Dub Nation alongside Mike Dunleavy, and the first thing he says is, "I've got my joy back. I've got my joy for basketball back." And you can see it, man. Like, you can feel it. And it is so infectious and permeates through all the other branches of this team into every other player. I mean, you can almost see the particles out there just like spewing out from Steph and Jimmy into everybody else. Like, Quentin Post is a perfect example of that tonight. Steph also, by the way, had 6 assists tonight in addition to his 34 points. And some of those came to Quentin Post, who went 7 of 10 from the field and 4 of 7. That's better than 50% from 3-point range. Quentin Post, 18 points in just 20 minutes for the Warriors' 7-footer. I mean, when's 18 points? That's Kevon Looney's career high. Like, when is the last time that we had a center that you could lean on for this many points? Like, this game feels like the turning of a page into a new chapter for the Golden State Warriors. And I'm really excited to see how this team ends this season. I mean, I know it's one game, but I'm ready to make a declarative statement that the Warriors can actually win a playoff series now. Like, not just a play-in series, but like a 7-game playoff series with Jimmy Butler, with Draymond Green. If Quentin Post keeps doing what he's doing, man, that just gives a whole nother dynamic option on this offense. Like, things are starting to come together for this unit, and it's right at the perfect time. By the way, Brandon Pajemski had another good night too. We wanted to talk about role players. He had 16 off the bench to lead the way for the bench scoring, 7 of 11 from the field in 29 minutes. He banged in a couple 3-pointers as well. Also had 7 rebounds and 5 assists, plus 26 plus minus. And the reason I bring this up is because Pods is going to be a huge component of this team going down the stretch. And if you can have that many guys that you can start to lean on, that you can start to rely on as secondary options, this team can start to click again, man. Like, they know how to win together. Like, they proved to you at the beginning of the season that this group can get hot. They went 12-3 to start the season. And there's no reason that with Jimmy Butler on this roster, especially, that they can't replicate that type of success now. I mean, I don't expect the Warriors to just win every game from here on out. I don't expect them, to finish like 10 games over 500 or anything like that. But I do expect that this team isn't going to look so damn mid anymore. I expect this team to be fun to watch, which that alone is like a revelation. No more, 99-point games for the Warriors. 132 points. Let's go. Like that. This is so much better to watch than what we have been seeing for all of the 2024-2025 season. And the number one reason why is obviously because they added Jimmy Butler and they got their joy back. Not just Jimmy, but Steph did too. And there is no way that you can underestimate how much that matters to Stephen Curry and to this team, because when Steph's having fun out there on the court, the Warriors are usually winning games. And so I love Jimmy Butler on this team. The addition of Jimmy Butler immediately made them better, and it's only going to continue to get better from here. I will say, with the one caveat, You just hope it doesn't blow up, because Jimmy Butler has blown up at every point in his career, everywhere he's been. But hey, that came, later on down the road. Right now, it's in the beginning. And in the beginning, everywhere that Jimmy went in his career, the beginning of all those, points of embarkment were pretty good. And hopefully, he just doesn't stay here too long to reach that, terrible point at the end. And I mean, with him being at the back end of his career, and Steph being at the back end of his career, and Draymond being at the back end of his career, and I'm assuming Steve Kerr is at the back end of his coaching career. I fully expect Steve to kind of go out with Steph and Draymond, honestly. All these guys, it's kind of lining up for like 2 more seasons after this for them to they're all their contracts are going to expire at the same time. This is the last push. This is what the Warriors will look like for the duration of the last gasp of Stephen Curry's career. And it's actually exciting. And that alone, we got to give Mike Dunleavy credit for, because prior to this trade, we were just basically sitting here watching Steph Curry just right out into the sun and just, chucking up some threes every game, taking 30 shots, but he's double, triple teamed. And let's be honest, that's not the way that we wanted to see Steph's career go out. This is a much, much, much better alternative. So thank God Mike Dunleavy went out and got Jimmy Butler in a Golden State Warrior uniform, wearing number 10. Got to make us feel better about all Jimmys wearing number 10 in the Bay Area, past and present. And I mean, I'm just so excited about this Warriors team going forward. And that is something I have not been able to say since November, literally since November. So more than half the season has gone by with the Warriors being just absolutely miserable and a bore to watch. And just honestly, like the most average, painfully average team that I have ever been forced to watch, 50 games of basketball for, 51 before they got Jimmy Butler. Thank God Jimmy's on the Warriors, because man, oh man, I do not expect this team to be as mid or as boring or as plain as they were at the beginning of the season for the rest of the year. Quentin Post, 18 points. Steph Curry, 34 points. Brandon Pajemski, 16. Jimmy Butler, 25. And even Buddy Hield got in on the action. 14 points for Buddy Hield, and the Warriors win 132-111 over the Chicago Bulls out there on the road in the Windy City. And man, oh man, the road trip continues, but I am so stoked to see what happens with the Warriors going forward. You get Giannis in the Bucks next on Monday. The Warriors will travel to Milwaukee to play the Bucks, and we'll see how that goes. Right now, the Warriors are heavily favored in that game. We'll see if that stands when this one tips off on Monday. That's all the time that we got for you guys today. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Locked On Warriors Postcast. I am your host, Eric Triple E Engel. Make sure you're checking out the Locked On Warriors Daily Show for more in-depth coverage. Charlie Walter does a great job. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Peace.